Morning folks, this morning's soap is Cella. This one here, I guess you might say, is the older print there. They got a new one that's out, and it is almond scented. It's what the sticker looks like on the back side. Got just over 5 ounces of soap in here. At least that's what it started out with. And it also helps me out because it also tells me it's almond. Helps with my nose. That's what it looks like there on the inside. It's this almond scented soap. There's others that are almond scented, like Razor Rock P160. Figaro's got one out. I think there's a few more, but anyway, the almond scent is out and about. It's been around for a good long while. Allen Block, no rubber band this morning. I'm going to be using Humphrey's witch hazel. That's a citrus scented. And decided this morning, typically with almond, for some reason or another, I usually will go with brute. And not sure why it's wired that way in my head, but this morning decided to go ahead and go with a barber shop scent for the aftershave from Wet to Face. I've got it whipped up here in a smooth bottom bowl. This bowl here I got from thrift store. Inexpensive, paid a whole $1 for it. It whipped up pretty good. This brush is from Metalworks. Really nice brush. Whipped up really nice. Shaver of the day. I was going to say something else. I'll wait a moment. Here, this is a this shaver here came by the way of Metalworks also. It's got a resin center, and then it's got that at the very end on the end cap. Just a good looking shaver. And the blade of choice, excuse me, went with I'm going to try a Parker again today, see how it works for me. See if it's nice and smooth. Went ahead and already put a hot towel to the face. Get started with the Preshave soap. What I was going to say about Cella is that particular soap, guess you might say how I got started on it. I was watching a few years back. I've had this soap for a moment, but I was watching a video from Anthony Esposito, and he was going through his some of his favorite soaps, and he had mentioned that he thought that that particular soap was, I guess you might say, underrated, and which kind of caused me to give it a try. At the time, I had no idea, nothing much, didn't know much about it, and over time, I had realized that this soap has quite a following, and it's probably not just because of the almond scent, but just because of the performance. Because in other words, with Anthony shaving with a straight razor most of the time, slickness is king. It is very important with the straight razor, and kind of figuring that that's where he was going towards, was the slickness besides the scent. So back then, being relatively new, decided to get me a tub, and it's pretty nice. I do not have the aftershave just yet. Haven't decided on that. Still been kind of waffling. There's 2 of them that I've been looking at, and every time I get ready to buy one of them, of course they're out of stock. So there you go. Waiting for the stars to line up and everything to work out for me. This is just full. It is just loaded with soap. Smells great. This particular almond, I guess you might say there might be two different scents. One may be bitter and the other one might be sweet. Now this is per my nose. I don't think this is the bitter one. I think this is a sweet one per my nose. This whipped up nice and creamy. This is a really nice soap. Go ahead and get started here. First pass. Good looking shaver. It has, so far, as it goes for any kind update. I haven't seen anything just yet. I'll have to look again to make sure, but I have not seen anything about them canceling any more of the games that we plan on going to. So looks like this coming weekend we'll be going to a football game unless something else happens. Who knows? You know, with a first year startup, AAF, you know, it's a startup league, and you gotta expect there's gonna be hiccups along the way, which I do. Typically, I don't necessarily spring for the additional insurance on stuff, but on this particular case, I decided it would be a good thing. So far, not too bad. Still got that typical spot right there. Across the grain will get that. I got just a little bit right there, and then just a weird growth right through there. Not always the easiest to get on their typical with the grain, cross the grain against the grain. You have to go a little bit at an angle on some of it to get it. It's part of learning mapping out your beard, how it's going to grow. This brush looks beautiful. That handle is just awesome. If you're wondering about where you can get some of this, a while back Jake had closed up his shop and went a different direction with his business. So in other words, getting this stuff is, it had to be on a buy-sell trade most likely in order to get some of this. This is part of some of his leftover stock that he had left over and was kind enough to sell me some of it. Just a really nice looking shaver. This is one of the ones I had my eye on anyway when he had his shop open. Right there, getting close to that chin where it's thicker growth. I have to say, this blade, it's not doing too bad. It's just a day's worth of beard growth. Having a hard time, I guess you might say, matching up what other blade could I mention that somebody might be able to associate the kind of shave I'm getting with this blade. And of course, it's going to be, your mileage may vary, so some may find it not any different than some of the other middle of the road blades. And I think it has a lot to do with what kind of shaver you're using it in. Some blades work better in other shavers than kind of hit and miss sometimes. Also depends on what kind of shave you're looking for. If you don't mind the edginess of the blade, as long as it gets you a close shave. That's Tony. I think he misses being in here with me. He's been quite active in the backyard. Yesterday it turned pretty cold. What was it? We had a day of 70. Next thing you know, we got a freeze warning. It's the kind of weather we have around here. In Oklahoma, if you're wondering. Kansas is about as bad. And I imagine in parts of Texas, if you go further north in Texas, weather gets kind of crazy. kind of thinking there's going to be some stinging on this one from the alum block. Because I've got somewhere, I have to take a good look here in a moment, somewhere I've got a spot, I think it's right there. It's not uncommon, once in a great while, right here and here, end up with a weeper, or two or three. Kind of reminds me of the days gone by with a cartridge razor. It was not uncommon to have just a whole bunch of bleeding right there. Thick growth. If your blade isn't quite up to snuff for that kind of shaving, I guess you might say you have to be kind of gentle. Yeah, see right there. Thought I saw some blood in the shaving cream there for a moment. The other day I had them pop up well after the fact. Don't really notice it though when I'm shaving. That's the thing that's, I guess you might say the oddity to it is I don't really notice that I'm getting a shave right there that's going to cause weepers. Sometimes I can feel it happening, but not right there I don't. Let's go ahead and see what the alum block's going to do for me today. I think today being Sunday, I don't think I mentioned that. I think Monday morning, if everything works out well, I'm going to do a shave with my Dovo shave app, the blue one. I think it's past time for a shave, video shave with it. Learned quite a bit this past week shaving with it. Just, I guess you might say, a lot of realization, connecting the dots on what I was experiencing. Give my thoughts on shaving with that Dovo. With the green insert, in other words with a longer blade. And if you're wondering, in case you don't catch the next video, but you're interested in a Dovo, with a green insert, you might want to hurry up and get them, because from what I understand they're out of production. They're still out in the wild, you still find them. It's just that they're going to get harder and harder to find. Doesn't feel like a bump. It might be now. A little irritated perhaps. Get some witch hazel. And if you're wondering sometimes if you're looking for a remedy for weepers, at least for me, my experience, besides using a styptic pencil, I have found that sometimes using an aftershave balm will do the trick. I guess you might say it depends on how much bleeding you got. But for me sometimes, if I'm done and still got a weeper that's bleeding on me, put on an aftershave balm and it'll stop bleeding. Need a little bit of something, I guess. I'm not sure what it is in the aftershave balm that does the trick. Maybe just the fact that it's a little thicker coating, covering up that place where it's bleeding at. Donald has a, from What the Face, he has a modern barber shop available also. I'll put a link down below where his aftershaves are at and whatnot. But this, got two bottles of this. This one here, I guess you might say, was version 1, then he has another one that he has out, and he calls it the Modern Barber Shop, and it's got a different label on it and whatnot, so it'll kind of stand out from this one here. Yep. I think I'll give it a moment. Off camera I'll go ahead and I'll put on a aftershave balm if it keeps on continuing to bleed right there, which it might. Once again, this shaver here is a good looking shaver. It is a bright red, kind of turning to, it's not pink, but I can understand, especially in the right kind of light, that it may look that way. It looks like it may have little shades of pink. If you look down through the center there, I'm not sure what that camera's going to show you, But there's parts in there that kind of gives you the impression that it's pink, and it's probably more of something to reflect the light, like, you know, a piece of glitter. And underneath the red gives it a pink shade. Looks good though. It's a good looking shaver. Nice shave this morning. It's trying to stop. Hope everybody's doing well. Stay safe and smooth shaves to you, and I'll see you Monday.